Hey guys, my name is E. I'm a professional sports videographer, and today I am filming an historical sporting event. It is the first ever outdoors professional basketball game here in Canada, so it's all happening behind me. It was raining this morning, but now it's looking good. I don't know how the audio is, but the weather's good.
1 hour later.
The only issue is I don't have court access because I don't know if the crowd will show up in force, but the media definitely did. So I didn't get court access for this game. So I'm thinking of making this video about showing you guys how to create a great hype reel or highlight video or game recap without actual court or field access. Hopefully, I'll be able to prove to parents who film their kids from the stands and to sports videographers who do get to go to high schools or college basketball games but don't necessarily have access to the court itself. I want to show you guys that it is possible to produce a great highlight or a great recap video without full access.
The CEBL Summer Classic was off to a rough start with rain forcing officials to postpone the game at halftime. The league office says they will determine the outcome of the game in the coming days. In Montreal, Corinne Boyer, City News.
So yeah, unfortunately, the game got canceled at halftime because of the weather, so I didn't get to film as much as I wanted to. But even though the highlight reel you just watched wasn't as good as it could have been, I still decided to move forward with producing this YouTube video. And I guess from this point on, we can talk about all the shots that you should aim to get when filming from the stands, and also all the lenses that you should use to ultimately produce a great highlight reel or game recap. Let's start with the lenses actually. For the longest time, I used to film all my basketball games with a Tamron 35-150 f2 to 2.8. 35-150 is a great zoom range for any sport really. It allowed me to film basketball games from anywhere on and around the court. The only issue with it was that when I was filming from the baseline, 35mm was a bit too tight to film players driving to the basket, especially when filming with an APS-C camera and especially when the end result is a vertical video. That's why I recently purchased a Sony 16-35mm f2.8 lens that I use at all my game day shoots in combination with my Sony 70-200mm f2.8 as well. At a basketball game, I typically use the 70-200 to film close-up action from various positions further away from the court, as well as tight and dynamic crowd shots. And I use the 16-35 to either capture wide shots from a distance or game action from the baseline. But let's be real, these are two ridiculously expensive lenses. So before we talk about the type of shots that I achieve with my lenses, let's talk about cheaper alternatives, which by the way, you'll all be able to find in my best sports filming kit on a budget. That is a list that I curated myself full of recommendations for budget sports videography equipment, and the link to get to it is in the description below. So if you want to stick with f2.8 lenses, but at a cheaper price, I suggest going the Tamron way. You can get a Tamron 17-28mm f2.8 and a 70-180mm f2.8. That way you still get two full-frame lenses with the same low and constant aperture. Unfortunately, you get a little bit less zoom range and an ever so slightly worse image quality overall, but you also pay less than half of what I paid for the Sonys. And if you want to go even cheaper than that, you can go for one single lens at $848. But that lens, the Sony 18-200mm f3.5 to 6.3, is an APS-C lens, so it won't work with a full frame camera. It also has a variable aperture, so your image will get darker as you zoom in, and it's definitely behind all the other lenses I previously mentioned when it comes to image sharpness and autofocus responsiveness. But it does have a perfect zoom range for sports that allows you to film anything from anywhere. So ultimately, like it is typically the case with lenses, the more money you spend, the better lens you get. So pick your poison based on where you are in your career and obviously on your budget as well. All right, so now let's talk about the type of shots that we should aim to get at a basketball game from in and around the stands. When filming close-up action with a telephoto lens like the 70-200, I try to avoid getting the back of people's heads in my shots. So filming from the stands, I always try to find a spot either in the first row or somewhere with empty seats in front of me for at least a couple rows. Basically, I want the seats right below me to be empty and the ones in the next row, the one below that, empty as well. Because that way I can be sitting down, holding the camera in a fairly low position, kind of like that, where I'll be very stable and also have a clear view. Because otherwise, if there's people in front of me, I'll have to hold the camera more like this, which is a very uncomfortable position that usually produces a lot of shaky footage. That's why if there are no empty seats available, I'll either film standing up, like literally next to the stands, or I'll go in the stands as high as I need to go to have no one behind me, and again, I'll film standing up. Because I'd rather be standing up holding my camera comfortably than sitting down but ending up with shaky footage because I'm making my arms work way too much. But bottom line, don't stay in the same spot the entire game just because you got a clear view and a stable position. Because the last thing you want is for all your action shots to look exactly the same framing and composition wise. So move around as much as you can, and if there are like great camera angles that unfortunately have people in the way, just go there anyway, get a few shots from there, but quickly move on. When it comes to wide-angle shots with my 16-35mm lens, this time I want to see the fans in my shot, because my shot is so wide that only a portion of it is showing the game. The idea is to use the rest of the frame to show the fans or the atmosphere in a visually interesting way. What I typically like to do is go as high as possible and have the game in the middle with the fans around it. Or go in the stands and try to have the action on one side and out of focus fans in the foreground on the other side. I love those types of shots because they are so dynamic, especially when the home team scores. If you have a gimbal or good stabilization in your camera, you can also try to add movement in your wide shots, either by tracking the ball carrier with fans in the foreground like this, or by moving your camera upwards to reveal the court from behind the crowd. At the end of the day, what really matters is shot variety, and that's variety in your framing, in your composition, and in your actual camera position. If you got a healthy mix of different shots in those three categories, you don't need court access at all. Anyway, like I said before, check out my link in the description to access my best sports filming kit on a budget. Otherwise, I hope you liked this video, even though it didn't turn out exactly as I planned, but either way, I will catch you in the next one.